I have my own story to tell. And if you feel as though you want to ask some questions, feel free.
We were in Rita.
You weren't really affected by Katrina?
Well, our family was, and they came to Sulphur, where we're from, and they were getting their life back together in Sulphur. And then, 3 weeks later, we saw another hurricane coming towards our way.
Okay, so where was your family before?
New Orleans.
They were forecasting the storm, to hit Biloxi or nearabouts, and they were talking about forced evacuation. And I considered evacuating. And 2 days before the storm hit, I said, well, I don't want to be, in a hurry and rush things prematurely.
My daughter bought a house approximately the mid part of June of 2005. All right. So I was living with her. I moved in with her, gave up my house and everything because she bought a 4-bedroom house, and I moved in with her July the 1st of 2005. The house was an old house, and she fixed it up, bought new floors, new carpet. We all, as a family, chipped in.
I started watching the news, and they had all these traffic jams, and people were having long waits on the interstate.
Right.
And I said, well, I'm a veteran of the coast, and I've been through storms, and I know what it's like. And I think that, rather than fight traffic, be caught in a traffic jam, be on the interstate, the storm coming along, be caught in the middle of the storm, be in a hell of an inconvenience, I said, I'll just go ahead and weather it out at home.
So I put all my stuff, all my furniture in storage in U-Haul, in the U-Haul storage company in Mizzou. That's a place like New Orleans East.
For Camille hit in 1969, had a 20-foot tidal wave, and there was only 4 foot of water in the house that I was living in. And I said, well, 4 foot of water, I can get up on a countertop or get in the top of a closet, wait for the water to recede, and I'll be all right. So I can withstand 4 foot of water.
Okay, so then the hurricane, we seen it, and it was coming, and they said that it was going to hit Galveston.
Right.
So
Like head on.
Yeah, so it was like, okay, well, we'll get the east side, which is the worst side.
All right.
We weren't too worried about it.
I wasn't leaving. That's all I kept saying.
Yeah.
Is I'm not going anywhere. I'm not leaving.
And I'm scared to death. After New Orleans,
Sure.
I'm scared.
All right, so here comes Hurricane Katrina, and I decided to stay and to work at the Superdome with the sick, disabled, and the elderly. My children left.
Okay.
My mama, my sister, my 2 daughters, my grandchild, my auntie, and my nephew all left together and went to Houston.
We left 2 days before.
We stayed up all night watching the news, watching the Weather Channel. It made a sharp turn. We got ready at 5 o'clock. We didn't sleep that night. 5 o'clock in the morning, we started packing everything we thought, all the pictures, anything that couldn't be replaced. Got our family together, but my mom had to stay. My mom works at a Citgo refinery, which produces gas and stuff. And there was like a requested page where you could write your name if you wanted to stay and make big bucks if you stayed.
She did it.
She did it. Well, we had to leave without her.
And that was the hardest thing.
The hardest thing is telling your mom bye, because you saw people on the news with holding pictures up saying, do you know where my mama is?
Yeah.
We didn't want to be one of those people.
Right.
I thought that the state or my employer was going to call me to work at the Superdome so that I felt that I'll be secure and told my children to go on. Well, Saturday came and they didn't call. Sunday come, and they didn't call. And I have a friend of a friend who kept calling me because they needed a ride to Meridian, Mississippi.
I contacted my daughter's grandmother and picked her up and had her over at my home. And we decided that the storm was a Category 5, that we didn't think that we would be okay. Mm-hmm. So we decided to make reservations at a hotel in the French Quarters. And we stayed there for maybe 2 days. We weathered out the storm. The storm was okay.
So you stayed in a hotel for the storm?
Mm-hmm. Okay. The lights was out for the period of the storm. Everything was fine. The storm had passed. There was debris flying in the air, but it wasn't real bad on the side of the building that I was facing. Just so happened maybe it was the way the wind blew.
I got my fiance and the kids out. I got them to leave. My mom and my sister, they didn't want to leave. They didn't think it was really going to be bad. So what I did, I sent my family on the way, and I stayed with my mom and my sister.
2 to 3 hours, I would say like 2 hours after the storm, we had a radio, battery-operated little radio we were listening to because our power was out, stating that the 17th Street and the 9th Ward area floodgates had collapsed or burst or whatever. And that's when everything went chaos.
The storm came. We sitting in the kitchen watching the storm. And all of a sudden, water just started come gushing. You know, so I pulled the attic door down and got my mom and them up in the attic. And we sat up there. I left them in the attic while I climbed out the window and stood on the roof. So with 2 white T-shirts, just flagging them so we can get rescued.
Okay.
And it took them a day and a half to come get us.
Well, I had just purchased a car in June of 2005 from the next door neighbor, and I really hadn't had a chance to do nothing to the car. And I went to Mississippi on a donut tire and 3 Warren tires.
Whenever we left,
Right.
we didn't know where we were going. We were just going. So,
Somewhere north.
Yeah, we were
north.
just-
Remember what day you left?
Oh my God.
2 days before.
It was
Okay.
going to hit on a
Crazy.
Saturday. We left on Thursday.
Yeah.
Okay.
We drove all day
20
Thursday.
hours.
We drove.
20 hours to get to Mississippi.
No, we drove wherever we could because we were trying to find a hotel to stay in because we really didn't want to stay in a shelter because they were already. I mean, the people from New Orleans had to re-evacuate and they were put in shelters, so the
Right.
shelters were full. We had 7 of us. It's her 2 kids, my aunt, my cousin, my brother. A lot of us. Okay.
And I prayed that the car would last because nobody really knew, you know, because I didn't have an oil change or nothing like that. I had just bought it.
I had made up my mind to stay home, weather it through, and a friend of mine, he's the constable of Harrison County, name's Wendy Swetman. Wendy owns a house in North Biloxi, which is considered Diabloville. And he came by the house and he said, come on, come stay with me. He said, I set the wife and the kids up to the country, and you and I will weather the storm out at my house. So I agreed to do that. So we went to his house. He had a 2-story house in Diabloville. And he and I spent the night before the storm there. We got up in the morning, about 6:30, the water started rising.
So we seen a McDonald's. So we pulled over. It was like, 3 o'clock in the morning? We pulled over and we slept
In our
because
car.
there was no
There was nowhere else to go.
hotels. So we slept in our car. We got up. We slept 2-3 hours. And we got up and we started coming this way. And finally we got here.
We watched the water come up, and he owned a car business. He had a rollback, and he had his patrol car. So we parked the rollback on high ground and rolled his patrol car up on top of the rollback. So we went back to the house, and the water was rising. And the whole time it was rising, we were watching it, and it got up to about our knees inside the house. And we were both concerned, but we wasn't overly concerned because we said, well, the water isn't going to get much higher. We'll be all right.